Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we sift through, the most groundbreaking research, the latest articles, all those fascinating insights you might have missed, and we distill them into knowledge you can actually use.
That's the goal.
Today, we're plunging into the exhilarating world of 5G connectivity. Those blistering fast speeds, ultra-low latency. It's not just making our phones faster, right?
Not at all. It's really transforming everything around us, how we communicate, how smart cities operate, even enabling things like remote surgery.
It really is the future, kind of in our pockets and all our connected devices.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. When you build a future on such complex, high-speed networks, the foundation, it has to be absolutely rock-solid secure. How do we make sure all that incredible speed and connectivity is actually safe? Safe from, the unseen forces trying to compromise it.
Exactly. Because underneath all that innovation, there's this constant high-stakes battle going on to keep our data secure.
Yeah. And specifically, our deep dive today is into, the urgent need for robust quantum-resistant cryptography for 5G, and the story of a fascinating stream cipher called SNOWV.
Precisely. Our mission today is really to pull back the curtain on how these advanced cryptographic systems, the ones so fundamental to our digital lives, are actually designed.
Okay.
We'll explore where their vulnerabilities might secretly lie, and critically, how brilliant minds are continuously working to both find and fix these potential security gaps.
So it's a continuous process.
Absolutely. You'll walk away from this deep dive understanding not just what SNOWV is, but why this high-stakes cat-and-mouse game of cybersecurity is so absolutely critical, especially for something as foundational as 5G.
Right.
We're going to be digging deep into a groundbreaking research paper. It's titled Full Key Extraction of SNOWV Using ML-Assisted Power SCA.
Okay, ML-Assisted SCA. Sounds complex.
It is, and this paper details the first successful power side channel attack ever conducted to fully extract the secret key of SNOWV, and then, crucially, how to effectively defend against it.
Attack and defense, the whole cycle.
Exactly. We'll make sure to highlight those aha moments, avoid just overloading you with information, and make these complex technical topics truly understandable.
That's precisely our goal. Okay, let's start by setting the stage with 5G itself. Because its capabilities, they're what drive these really intense security demands, aren't they?
They really are.
When we talk about 5G, we're really talking about a generational leap. It's far beyond just a slightly faster internet connection.
Oh, absolutely.
It's designed for, unprecedented high data rates, ultra-low latency, we're talking single-digit milliseconds, and enhanced quality of service.
And these aren't just buzzwords.
No, they're the building blocks for revolutionary applications, like perfectly synchronized self-driving cars, real-time remote-controlled heavy machinery, even, life-saving remote surgery that demands absolute reliability.
Things where failure is just not an option.
Exactly. But with these unprecedented capabilities comes an equally critical and frankly escalated demand for robust security and privacy measures. It's like building a superhighway for the future, right?
Good analogy.
It needs to be incredibly efficient, yes, but it also has to be incredibly safe, resilient against any kind of breach, interruption, or accident.
Yeah.
And the challenge isn't just securing the data as it flies across the network. It's securing the very algorithms, the hardware that make that data transfer possible.
Yeah.
Especially now in an era where new and powerful threats like quantum computing are, rapidly emerging on the horizon.
That really underscores the urgency, and this escalating need is precisely what led to the genesis of SNOWV.
Okay.
Back in 2018, the Third Generation Partnership Project, or 3GPP, they're essentially the global body-setting standards for mobile telecommunications.
Right, the standard setters.
They recognize this critical need for enhanced security. So they tasked the European Telecommunications Standards Institute's Security Experts Group, ETSI SAGE, with a very specific, very demanding mandate: to create new 256-bit crypto systems specifically tailored for 5G networks. And what's truly fascinating here is they weren't just looking for any crypto. They demanded something truly next-gen.
Okay, so really pushing the bounds.
Yeah, absolutely. These new systems had incredibly stringent requirements, far beyond what was needed for, say, 3G or 4G.
Like what kind of requirements?
Well, they needed speeds exceeding 20 gigabits per second. And not just on specialized hardware, but also on general-purpose CPUs. That's a significant performance bar.
Wow, 20 GBPs on a CPU.
Yeah. They also had to possess quantum-safe characteristics to proactively withstand future threats from emerging quantum computers.
Future-proofing, basically.
Exactly. Plus, they needed to support ultra-reliable, low-latency, communications with just a 1 millisecond latency budget, vital for those real-time critical applications we mentioned.
Okay.
And critically, they had to comply with NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, their recommendation for achieving a classical 256-bit security level, even when faced with quantum computer attacks.
So a really high bar across speed, latency, and security, including quantum threats.
Precisely. And this ambitious initiative, seeking to meet all these demanding specs, it directly led to the development of the stream cipher we're discussing today, SNOWV.
So SNOWV wasn't just some minor update then. It was purpose-built from the ground up for this new, demanding 5G era.
Correct. It was proposed by a team of researchers, Ekdahl and colleagues, specifically to replace its predecessor, SNOW3G, as the primary encryption standard for 5G systems.
And the key difference was the security level.
That was the main enhancement, yes.
Oh, yeah.
A significant leap in cryptographic strength, upgrading from 128-bit to 256-bit security.
You can kind of think of it like upgrading from maybe a sturdy single-lock door on a critical vault
Yeah.
to a much more robust, double-bolted, reinforced one. It wasn't just about making the existing system a bit stronger.
No, it was fundamental.
It was about fundamentally fortifying the underlying algorithm to meet the vastly increased data volumes, the speed, the critical nature of 5G comms.
And also proactively addressing any potential vulnerabilities found in previous generations, ensuring much stronger protection for our increasingly interconnected world.
And this upgrade, it sounds like it was absolutely essential.
Oh, it was non-negotiable. For several compelling reasons. The motivation was clear. SNOW3G, which, served 3G networks well enough,
Right.
it simply wasn't robust enough for the immense scale, speed, and mission-critical applications of 5G.
And the quantum threat was a big part of that.
A huge driving factor. As we move into an era where quantum computing shifts from theory to practical reality, algorithms like Grover's algorithm offer a quadratic speedup against classical crypto methods.
Quadratic speedup. What does that mean in practice?
In practical terms, it means a 128-bit security level, once considered highly secure, effectively diminishes to only about 64-bit security against a powerful quantum attacker.
Wow, that's a dramatic drop.
It really is. So doubling the key length to 256 bits is a necessary strategic mitigation. It achieves that classical 256-bit security level against these quantum threats. It's essentially future-proofing our communications.
Makes sense.
And beyond quantum threats, SNOWV is designed as a lightweight stream cipher. This characteristic makes it ideal for securing the air interface communications within the radio access network, the RAN.
The RAN, that's the wireless link between our devices and the cell towers, right?
Exactly. Between your phone or maybe tiny smart sensors and wearables and the base stations, many of these IoT devices are resource constrained.
Right, they don't have a lot of computing power.
Precisely. They need strong encryption but can't handle heavy computational overhead. SNOWV provides robust security without bogging them down.
So it's sufficient, too.
Yes, and it also brought significant performance improvements compared to SNOW3G, particularly enhancing its software throughput, which was a known limitation. Its architectural similarities to other systems also helped with hardware reuse in mobile devices, making it more efficient to implement.
Okay, so lots of advantages. But here's a critical point you mentioned. ETSI Sage anticipated it would be more resistant to side-channel attacks than SNOW3G.
They did anticipate that.
Which raises the question, was that anticipation accurate? And how do you even check the real-world security of something like this before it gets deployed everywhere?
And that's precisely where this detailed research comes into play. It tackles exactly that question.
Okay, so that takes us right into the heart of this paper. Understanding side-channel attacks, or SCA. It's not just about, breaking the complex math with a supercomputer or finding some theoretical flaw in the algorithm itself.
It's much more subtle.
It's about listening to the implementation as it runs on a physical device. So what does this mean exactly? SCA.
A side-channel attack basically exploits information that's unintentionally leaked during the physical execution of a cryptographic algorithm.
Leaked? How?
Think of a super secure bank vault. You could spend years trying to guess the combination that's like a purely mathematical attack.
Right. Brute force or finding a flaw in the lock design.
Or you could cleverly listen closely as someone opens it. Pay attention to the subtle clicks of the tumblers, the minute vibrations as they turn the dial.
Or even how much power the electronic lock draws at different points.
Exactly. That's a side channel attack. You're not breaking the code directly. You're exploiting the physical phenomena that accompany its operation.
Okay, that makes sense. So these side channels can be different things.
Many different things. Variations in power consumption, faint electromagnetic emissions, differences in processing time, even acoustic signatures. For our deep dive today, we're focusing primarily on power consumption because that's the leakage this research so cleverly exploited.
Power consumption.
Mm.
Listening to the chip's electricity use. Fascinating.
Indeed, it's a fascinating area of security research. And while the basic concept might seem, intuitive, applying it effectively, especially to different types of crypto systems, presents unique challenges.
How so?
Well, for instance, most published research on practical power or electromagnetic SEA has historically focused on block ciphers.
Like AES.
Exactly. With block ciphers, attackers typically target the first or the last round of encryption, as these stages often reveal more distinct information about the secret key.
Okay.
But stream ciphers, like SNOWV, operate quite differently. They continuously generate a stream of pseudorandom bits that get XOR'd with the plaintext. The key is used in a more distributed, continuous way.
So you can't just look at the beginning or the end.
Right. Analyzing stream ciphers requires examining leakage across multiple rounds of their internal state updates. It makes the attack far more complex, more intricate. And furthermore, when analyzing stream ciphers, especially those using components like feedback shift registers, which we'll get into, as they're central to SNOWVSEA, often integrates with other advanced techniques, things like algebraic attacks, to exploit vulnerabilities more effectively.
So it's combining different attack methods.
Often, yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these kinds of attacks are highly sophisticated. They often combine multiple disciplines, cryptanalysis, signal processing, electrical engineering, to meticulously peel back the layers of security.
That makes perfect sense. It's a sophisticated attack needing a nuanced approach. And it highlights why certain devices might be more vulnerable.
Right.
You mentioned IoT devices in the RAN.
Exactly. Those resource-constrained, lightweight IoT devices that are becoming ubiquitous. They're prime targets for these kinds of side-channel attacks.
Why them specifically?
It's quite intuitive, actually. They often exhibit a high side-channel signal-to-noise ratio, or SNR.
High SNR meaning the signal is clearer.
Precisely. The unintentional leakage signals those tiny power fluctuations caused by crypto operations. They're much clearer and easier to detect against the background electrical noise in these simpler devices.
Ah, okay. Like trying to hear a whisper in a quiet library versus a noisy concert hall?
That's a perfect analogy. IoT devices in this context are often like the quiet library for attackers. They provide a much clearer, more isolated signal to exploit.
Which is why securing these seemingly small, simple devices is so incredibly important for the whole 5G network.
Absolutely. A weakness in one can potentially compromise the whole system.
Okay, so to really appreciate the attack and the defense here, we need to understand a bit about SNOWV's internals. How does it actually work?
Right, let's peek under the hood, conceptually at least. SNOWV is categorized as a binary additive stream cipher.
Okay.
At its core, its purpose is to generate a key stream, that random-looking sequence of bits, which then gets combined with your data for encryption.
And how does it generate that stream?
It uses two main components. First, two large 256-bit linear feedback shift registers, or LFSRs. They're named LFSRA and LFSRB.
LFSRs, linear feedback shift registers. What are those, simply put?
Think of them as sophisticated, interconnected memory banks. They shift bits around and use specific mathematical feedback rules, based on their current state, to generate new bits, kind of like a complex digital conveyor belt constantly producing a stream of new, seemingly random bits.
Like a bit generator.
A very specific kind. Each LFSR, A and B, consists of 16 elements, and each element is drawn from something called GF216.
GF216 sounds mathematical.
It is. Imagine it as a specialized mathematical alphabet or number system designed for binary operations where each letter or number is a 16-bit value.
Got it.
And their behavior, how bits are shifted and combined, is precisely defined by complex generating polynomials GAX and GBX. These polynomials are like the hidden blueprints, the rulebooks dictating exactly how bits move and combine.
Okay, so they define the randomness.
They define the sequence generation, yes. And what's key is how they update. They're clocked 8 times for each update of the second component, the finite state machine, or FSM.
8 times, so they're fast.
Very active. It means 256 bits of the total 512-bit state get refreshed in a single rapid step. And as they update, they produce taps T1 and T2, specific 16-bit elements derived from designated positions within LFSR A and B. For instance, T1 comes from combining bits from B15 down to BY8 in LFSR B, and T2 from A7 down to A in LFSR A. These taps then feed directly into the FSM.
Okay, so the LFSRs generate foundational bits, and these taps feed into the FSN. What happens there?
Right. The FSM is where the real mixing and complex transformation happens. It takes those tapped bits and produces the final, highly randomized key stream.
How does it do the mixing?
The FSM itself has 328-bit registers, let's call them R1, R2, and R3, plus specific update and output logic. This output logic generates the 128-bit keystream outputs every time the FSM updates, using those fresh taps from the LFSRs.
And then there are specific math operations inside.
Yes, some very specific ones. There's parallel addition modulo 232, for example, which combines numbers in a way that ensures unpredictable outcomes. And perhaps most interestingly, the update logic uses two instances of the full AES round function.
AES, the Advanced Encryption Standard. That sounds really strong.
It is normally. But here's that critical detail we touched on, the one that caught the researchers' attention. The round keys for these AES functions, called C1 and C2, they are hardwired to 0, 1, 2, 8.
Hardwired to all zeros.
Exactly. They're fixed to 0.
Huh. Is that normal? Why would they do that? It seems like it weakens the AES part.
That's an excellent point, and it really highlights a crucial design choice. Typically, in standard AES, those round keys are derived from the secret key they change, adding significant security.
Right.
Setting them to 0 here was likely a deliberate design choice within SNOWV, perhaps to optimize for speed, reduce the hardware footprint, or simplify implementation, especially for those resource-constrained IoT devices.
Okay, performance trade-off maybe.
Possibly. But what the attackers realized, and what becomes very important later, is that this choice effectively disarms what would otherwise be a powerful component.
How so?
By setting the keys to 0, the AES function, instead of adding strong nonlinearity and mixing based on the key, becomes a fixed, known transformation. It's effectively inert in terms of key-dependent security during that initialization phase. It simplifies that part of the algorithm into something predictable.
Ah, I see. So it removes a layer of complexity that might have protected the key during setup.
Precisely. And despite these specific choices, SOWV was initially thought to be highly secure based on extensive theoretical analyses.
Right. You mentioned theoretical attacks couldn't break it.
Exactly. It underwent various academic analyses, guess and determine attacks, linear cryptanalysis. But the crucial point is, these were all purely theoretical. Meaning they identified potential avenues, but couldn't be implemented in practice due to astronomically high time and memory complexities. We're talking complexities larger than 2240.
Okay, so impossible with current tech.
Completely beyond reach. So while theoretical weaknesses might exist, they weren't practical threats. This is why this particular work is so significant.
Because it's practical.
Exactly. It represents the first power side channel attack on SNOWV with the explicit objective of full key recovery. It moves from theory to practical, real-world reality, a fundamental shift in assessing the security of this critical cipher.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge leap from impossible theory to a practical break. Let's get into the core contribution of this research then.
Right.
What did they actually achieve?
The paper's key achievement is truly remarkable. It details the first ever Power SCA to successfully recover the secret key of SNOWV. And importantly, this wasn't just a simulation.
They did it on real hardware.
Yes, on a real 32-bit ARM Cortex-M4 microcontroller, a common, widely used embedded processor found in countless IoT devices and mobile components.
Okay, so very relevant hardware. And how did they do it? What techniques?
What makes the attack particularly sophisticated is how it combined two main techniques. First, a non-profiled correlation power analysis, or CPA, to identify the leakage. CPA, okay. And then to overcome a specific tricky hurdle, which we'll get into, they used a machine learning-based profiled attack model, specifically linear discriminant analysis, or LDA.
Machine learning. To break encryption.
To help interpret the side channel data, yes. And the accuracy they achieved with LDA was impressive. Over 99% accuracy after training with just 1,000 traces.
Wow, that's highly accurate with relatively few traces.
It really is. And Showing the whole cybersecurity cycle, the researchers didn't stop at the attack.
They proposed a defense, too.
Exactly. They proposed and implemented a Boolean masking technique, and it demonstrated a stunning greater than 4,000x improvement in minimum traces to disclosure, or MTD. Basically, it rendered their own attack virtually impossible.
Incredible. Over 4,000 times harder to break.
Yeah. So this paper really covers both sides, the ingenious attack and the smart, effective defense.
Truly a deep dive.
Okay, let's break down the attack. How did they find the weak spot? Indeed, it's a comprehensive piece of work. The first critical step in any SCA is always finding that initial weak spot, that chink in the armor. Their analysis quickly identified the LFSR, those linear feedback shift registers, as a particularly vulnerable point.
The LFSRs again.
Yes, and specifically during the initialization phase of the cipher.
Why initialization?
Because this is precisely when all the secret key bytes are loaded directly into the LFSRs. They're temporarily more exposed. And critically, remember how the FSM uses 0 values for its constants C1 and C2?
Right, the inert AES part.
Exactly. That makes the AES component irrelevant for the attack at this specific early stage. It's a classic example of an attacker looking for the path of least resistance.
Attack the simpler setup phase, not the complex running phase.
Precisely. The source details exactly how the secret key, K15.K0, and the initialization vector, the fourth, IV7.IV0, are loaded. For instance, elements A15 to A8 and LFSRA come directly from key bytes K7 to K. The researchers then focused on a specific parameter calculated during initialization called U. It's defined by a complex XOR operation. U became the main target for key recovery during the else update function.
So they targeted this specific calculation U.
Yes, but they immediately hit a hidden, subtle challenge. Information about the least significant bit, the LSB, of key byte A8, specifically A80, gets lost.
Lost. How?
It happens due to a 1-bit right shift within that Moxum function. That's a specialized multiplication and inversion operation crucial for the LFSR's pseudo-randomness.
Okay, so a mathematical quirk loses the last bit of information.
Exactly. And this subtle loss of information creates what they called ghost peaks when doing correlation power analysis. It makes it incredibly difficult to uniquely pinpoint the correct key.
Ghost peaks. Sounds like it makes the signal ambiguous, like trying to find a needle in a haystack when the haystack sometimes shows you two identical needles.
That's a great way to put it. A frustrating hurdle. So the first phase involved confirming this leakage existed at all. They started with TVLA test vector leakage assessment.
The diagnostic scan.
Right. Think of it as confirming there's something data-dependent leaking before you try to decode it. They did this using fixed and random sets of 1,000 power traces, looking for statistical t-values exceeding a threshold, 4.5. It confirmed there was something to exploit.
Okay, leakage confirmed. What next?
Then, after confirming leakage and having a potential attack point, they used known key correlation, or KKC. This was crucial to validate their attack model.
How did KKC work?
They fixed the secret key, systematically varied the IV, and assessed the Hamming weight of the 16 bits of that U parameter.
Hamming weight. That's the count of 1 bits, right? Often correlates with power use.
Exactly. And to reduce complexity but keep a good signal-to-noise ratio, they cleverly simplified their model to an 8-bit version to deduce the initial key byte, reduce the search space from 216 down to 28.
Smart simplification. So this methodical approach ensured their model was sound before the main attack.
Precisely. It validated their approach.
Okay, leakage confirmed, model validated, phase 2, the initial attack with CPA.
Right. Correlation power analysis. This is where they directly targeted those U and V operations within the ulcer update function, aiming to extract the secret key bytes.
Did they start on the real chip?
They actually started with simulated traces first, to streamline the process and refine their hypotheses before moving to the actual hardware measurements.
Makes sense. Less noise.
During this simulated CPA, they computed the 16-bit U, its Hamming weight, formed the simulated traces. Then, using an 8-bit key hypothesis, they varied the key byte under attack, A8, through all 256 values, calculated the hypothetical 8-bit U and its Hamming weight.
And this is where the ghost peak problem showed up clearly.
Acutely. When CPA was run on the lower 8 bits of A87.0, the analysis didn't give one clear peak for the correct key. It showed 4 key guesses with the highest correlation.
4, not just the 2 ghost peaks.
4 initially. two strong positive peaks labeled A and B, and two distinct negative peaks, C and D.
Okay, positive and negative peaks.
Yes, and here, a specific characteristic of the ARM Cortex-M4 chip helped. It precharges its data bus to 0. This typically means correct key bytes show positive peaks in CPA results.
Ah, so they could ignore the negative peaks C and D.
Correct. They could confidently disregard them as incorrect guesses, but this still left them with two prominent positive peaks, A and B.
The two identical needles again.
Exactly. One is the correct key, but how do you definitively know which one? That's the core of the ghost peak problem, a direct result of that LSB information loss in the mulxim function.
A classic cryptanalysis riddle. Finding the signal is one thing, interpreting it correctly is another. So phase 3, machine learning to the rescue.
Precisely. This is where it gets really interesting. The ambiguity of those two positive peaks, A and B, made it impossible to uniquely identify the correct key byte using just CPA.
So they needed something smarter.
They needed a sophisticated method to differentiate them, enter linear discriminant analysis, LDA, and establish machine learning technique.
How did LDA solve the ghost peak problem?
Okay, here's how it works in this context. Power traces were meticulously gathered from the target device. Crucially, they were then labeled marked as either 0 or 1.
Labeled based on what?
Based on the actual least significant bit of A8, specifically A88 for the upper 8 bits analysis and A80 for the lower 8 bits. They needed known keys during this profiling or training phase.
So they trained the AI with known examples.
Exactly. This meticulously labeled dataset was used to train the LDA model. It allowed the model to learn the subtle patterns and distinctions in the power traces that corresponded to the two possible LSB values.
So it learns to tell the difference between the power signatures of peak A and peak B.
That's the idea. Once trained, the model was evaluated on fresh, unseen data to assess its accuracy. And the beauty is, it worked. It effectively eliminated the false peak, B, allowing precise, unambiguous identification of the correct secret key byte, A.
And the accuracy was high.
Incredibly high. More than 99% accuracy after training with just 10,000 traces.
Wow. That really shows how ML can turn an ambiguous signal into clear information for key recovery.
It's a powerful demonstration of interdisciplinary cybersecurity, absolutely.
Okay, so they can now reliably identify a single key byte. But that's just one byte out of 32, right? How did they get the whole key? Phase 4.
Right. Phase 4 was about recovering the full key incrementally, piece by painstaking piece. They used an incremental attack approach, a systematic strategy. It wasn't just about one byte, it was about systematically dismantling the entire secret key, building on each previous success.
How did they leverage the osrupdate function for this?
Cleverly. The attack leverages the function across its 8 distinct iterations. In the early iterations, say I to I equal 4, the calculations for U and V, the SCA targets, involve XOR operations on both the IV and key components in specific LFSR positions like A8 and B8, then A9 and B9, and so on.
Okay, standard attack on those bytes.
But the real ingenuity, the chaining mechanism, kicks in for the later iterations, specifically for I equal 5.
What happens then?
This is where the XOR operations for U and V start to involve two 16-bit words derived from the keys. And here's the crucial part. One of these keywords will already be known from the previous attack steps, those recovered during I44.
So if you know part of the equation, you can solve for the unknown part.
Exactly. If you have an equation like A XOR B equals C, and you've successfully determined A through the ML-assisted CPA, and you can observe C through the side channel leakage, then B, the other unknown key part, is easily revealed through a simple XOR.
That's clever. Can you give an example?
Sure, the source gives a great one. In iteration I equals 5, the equation for V XORs the IV with two 16-bit key-derived words. One comes from the known key in B8, which they recovered back at ILRO. The other comes from B13.
So because B8 is known,
B13 becomes easily recoverable, simple XOR. Similarly, in the final iteration, I07, the U equation involves XORing the IV with A8, known from I0, and A15. This lets them discover A15.
Wow. So they chain together these byte recoveries, systematically piecing together the entire secret key, one known value at a time.
Precisely. Upon completing all iterations, they successfully retrieved all the key bytes in LFSRA, A8 to A15, and LFSRB, B8 to B15, the whole key.
That is quite the sophisticated multi-stage attack. Fascinating how they built on each step. So what were the tangible results? Section 5, the proof in the power traces. How successful was this on the unprotected chip?
The numbers are quite stark, as you said earlier. For most of the key bytes, the correct key was recovered with fewer than 50 traces.
Fewer than 50. That's incredibly efficient. Just 50 tiny electrical signals to break the encryption.
It demonstrates the frightening efficiency and practical feasibility of this combined CPA and ML attack.
And the LDA model's accuracy held up in practice.
Yes, the trained LDA model, using 10,000 traces, split 70% training, 30% testing, successfully predicted that crucial LSB of the key byte with over 99% accuracy.
So definitely not just theoretical. A proven practical method for full key recovery on unprotected hardware.
Exactly. It highlights just how quickly an unprotected implementation can be compromised by these sophisticated techniques.
A stark reminder. But as you said, the story doesn't end there. Section 6. Fighting back the power of masking. How do you defend against this?
Right. The researchers also tackled the defense side. One of the most common and actually provably secure countermeasures against passive side-channel attacks like CCA is masking.
Masking? How does that work?
The core idea is quite elegant, really. Sensitive data, like a secret key value X, is conceptually split into multiple shares. For example, 2 shares by 1 and by 2, where by 1 XOR by 2 equals the original X.
Okay, splitting the secret.
Then, instead of operating directly on the sensitive value X, cryptographic operations are performed independently on these individual shares by 1 and by 2.
So the calculation happens on the split parts.
Yes. And crucially, random masks are used, and these masks change with each execution of the algorithm. This completely mitigates the correlation between the side channel leakage, the power fluctuations you observe, and the original sensitive information X.
Ah, because the power signature you see is now related to the randomized shares, not the original secret.
Exactly. It's like scrambling the signal before it's ever broadcast. Even if you're listening intently, you can't make sense of the original message from the leakage of the shares alone.
Clever. It obscures the data at its most vulnerable points. And the researchers applied a specific type, Boolean masking.
Yes, they applied Boolean masking, specifically tailored for SNOWV. It's a robust countermeasure often used against SCO. It involves partitioning sensitive variables into 2 or more shares using XOR, just as we described. Operations are then executed independently on these shares.
But masking can be slow, right? You mentioned performance trade-offs.
That's the practical challenge, yes. Fully masking an entire algorithm can significantly impact performance, sometimes more than doubling the runtime. For 5G ciphers like SNOWV, speed is absolutely crucial.
Can't have that kind of slowdown on 5G.
Exactly. A 55% slowdown or more on every encryption would seriously impact network performance, latency, user experience. So the researchers made a very smart compromise.
What do they do?
Instead of full algorithm-wide masking, they implemented first-order masking specifically on the blfsrupdate function.
The very function their attack targeted.
Precisely. This clever optimization focuses the security effort and the performance overhead exactly where it's most needed. It significantly reduces the overhead compared to masking the whole algorithm.
Okay, targeted protection. How does it work in practice for SNOWV?
In simplified terms, the IVs are split into 2 shares, IV1, IV2, the keys into key1, key2. These are then assigned to mask components like A1, A2, B1, B2 in the LFSRs.
So A1 XOR A2 equals the original A, and B1 XOR B2 equals the original B.
Correct. The LFSR masks are designed just like that. Now, the ulsrupdate function produces masked outputs, U1 and U2, where U1 XOR U2 equals the original U.
So the attacker can't directly target U anymore.
Because it's never fully exposed in a single unmasked operation. And targeting U1 or U2 alone reveals nothing meaningful about the secret key, because the randomization from the masking obscures any direct correlation.
A neat solution. But there's still a cost, right? What was the performance overhead?
There is inevitably a cost. The researchers quantified it. Their masked SNOWV implementation took 17 milliseconds to initialize, compared to 11 milliseconds for the unprotected version.
Okay, 11 meters to 17 meters, that's about...
An approximately 55% increase in performance overhead for the initialization phase.
55%. That's significant, but maybe acceptable if it's just initialization.
It's a trade-off, certainly, but often a necessary one for security, especially for critical infrastructure like 5G, where communication integrity is paramount. It forces engineers to balance required security versus acceptable performance impact.
Given that overhead, how well did the masking actually work? What were the results on the masked version?
The results were dramatic. The measured CPA results on the masked SNOWV implementation showed remarkable improvement. Remember how they got the key byte A8 in under 50 traces on the unprotected version?
Yes.
With the masked version, the correct key byte could not be determined even after analyzing 200,000 traces.
Wow. From under 50 to over 200,000 and still no luck.
Exactly. That represents a stunning greater than 4,000x improvement in SCA security, measured by minimum traces to disclosure, MTD.
Over 4,000 times harder to break. That's an incredible leap in protection. It really shows the power of well-applied countermeasures.
It really does. It's almost poetic, isn't it? A seemingly small design choice opens a vulnerability.
Like the zeroed AES keys.
And then another clever targeted design choice, the masking, plugs it so effectively. It demonstrates that even when serious vulnerabilities are found, effective defenses can often be developed and implemented.
Okay, let's pull back for the big picture. Section 7. What does all this mean for us and for 5G's future?
Yeah, this deep dive really illustrates several profound lessons. We've explored SNOWV's development for 5G, the sophisticated ML-assisted power SCA that exploited its initialization.
And the effective Boolean masking countermeasure.
Right. The key takeaway for me is how this practical validation works. The unprotected SNOWV was broken quickly, yes, but it was the ingenious ML technique resolving the ghost peak ambiguity, and then the 4,000x security boost from targeted masking that truly stand out.
It highlights that even expected security needs real-world testing.
Absolutely. Anticipated security levels need rigorous practical validation against every conceivable attack vector, not just theoretical proofs. Theoretical security is one thing. Real-world implementation vulnerabilities are entirely another.
It really drives home that ongoing cat-and-mouse game of cybersecurity. Attack, defense, adaptation.
It's a continuous dynamic process. Vulnerabilities are found, countermeasures are developed, attackers find new ways. It pushes defenders to innovate again, an endless cycle.
So what does this mean for you, the listener, the everyday user? Well, every time you make a 5G call, stream a video, connect an IoT device, these intricate layers of security, like SNOWV, are working behind the scenes.
Constantly being tested, sometimes broken, and then refined by experts like those in this paper.
This research isn't just academic. It's a crucial part of ensuring 5G's long-term security, your privacy, and the reliability of our connected world.
And looking forward, this has important future implications. It underscores the critical importance of designing robust crypto hardware from the outset. Thinking about side-channel vulnerabilities during the initial design, not just patching later.
Designing security in, not bolting it on.
Exactly. It also highlights the increasing role of machine learning, both for attacking systems by finding subtle patterns.
And for defending them by enhancing analysis and countermeasures.
Right. And finally, it reinforces that enduring challenge, balancing security with performance. Especially in demanding high-speed, low-latency environments like 5G, achieving both top-tier security and uncompromised performance remains a central goal.
What an incredible deep dive into the hidden world of 5G crypto, the clever ways researchers expose weaknesses and then fortify the defenses. It's a profound reminder, isn't it? True innovation isn't just speed, it's the invisible shield protecting it.
Well said.
That unseen battle against those trying to exploit any weakness. So here's a final thought for you to consider. Next time you use your 5G device, think about that incredible unseen battle happening in milliseconds behind the scenes. Remember how researchers used AI to discern a hidden signal or achieved a 1,000-fold security boost against a sophisticated attack? That's a testament to human ingenuity constantly pushing the boundaries of attack and defense. How might these constant pushes and pulls shape the very future of digital trust in our increasingly connected world?